Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name is Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the recent drama and friction that is occurring between Herbert Diess and Volkswagen. Now, this drama and this friction, I think, could lead to Herbert Diess inevitably, one, getting let go from Volkswagen, and two, as a result, finally coming over to Tesla. So we've got some quotes and some articles to take a look at, but before we do that, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and without further ado, let's take a look at this. Here we can see an article that was written on November 4th, 2021. And this, the title says it all. Volkswagen CEO faces German workers as Tesla tensions flare again. So here, obviously, picture of Herbert Diess. For those of you who don't know, he's essentially the leader of Volkswagen that's helping them transition from this ICE model, right, internal combustion engine model of selling vehicles into a electrified version of the company. And so he's been tasked with creating this change and helping, keep Volkswagen alive in the future. If we scroll down here, we're just going to read the article. I highlighted some key topics that I thought were important, and we'll just discuss them as we go. Volkswagen CEO Herbert Diess sought to diffuse a clash over the pace of reforms he thinks are needed to keep up with the likes of Tesla by addressing thousands of workers at the German car maker's Wolfsburg plant on Thursday. So, right off the bat here, you can tell the premise is, Diess realizes that Tesla is going to dominate in the world, especially with vehicles, that it's inevitable what's coming, even though the masses of the world, right, many people don't think this is happening, many people don't think this is coming. It is. It's inevitable. All right. Every automaker right now is, scrambling to electrify their vehicles or scrambling to get as many chips, as many batteries to keep up with Tesla and to make sure that they're relevant in 5 years from now. If not, you're going to see a lot of these companies going bankrupt. And again, this is a type of transition that we haven't seen since the early 1900s when we went from horse and carriage to the Model T, right, to Fords and what the assembly line did for the automobile industry. And that's what's happening now, right? Tesla is perpetuating this movement, and Herbert Diess is here to help reform and keep up with the likes of Tesla. So if we scroll down here, at the heart of the rift lies Diess' concern that Volkswagen might fall behind rivals unless it accelerates an overhaul to compete with electric vehicle maker Tesla, led by CEO Elon Musk, and nimbler rivals in China. Workers, meanwhile, are concerned that means potentially huge job cuts. I highlighted this because I think this is very important for people to understand. Herbert Diess is a smart man. He understands the inevitability of what's to come. All right, we've seen it in industry after industry. Okay, we see companies like Blockbuster not able to transform into a Netflix. We've seen the Motorola's, the Nokia's, the Blackberries not be able to transition into the Apples, into the Samsungs, into the Pixels, right? This is something that we see that repeats over and over. And the one common factor as tech changes, what we've noticed is that the incumbents don't tend to transform or innovate, and they're the ones that get left behind. And what Herbert Diess is trying to do here is make sure that Volkswagen, which is an incumbent, is a player that's already existing, isn't left behind. And here come all these Chinese automakers who are new companies, new upstarts in the US. You have the Rivians, you have the Lucids, right? These are all new companies, right? This could be no different than the cell phone market, where nowadays nobody has a single phone that existed, 10 years ago. The new phones now are made by Google, Samsung, and Apple. None of them were players back in the day. And now they're dominating, right? You don't hear of a Nokia. You don't hear of a RIM. You don't hear of a Blockbuster, right? They did not, understand what's happening in the change. And this is what Herbert Diess is trying to prevent. And he's very aware that Tesla is the future and they understand what's happening. And so this is the friction that Diess has with Volkswagen. It's all this bureaucracy within this company, all this red tape, and it's inhibiting them from, moving quickly. In other words, it's all these MBAs stopping engineers from doing the real work and knowing what's happening. With these potential concerns for job losses, you can empathize with people, right? People don't want to lose their jobs. Imagine somebody is part of the actual motor, the actual engines division of the company for R&D, And now they're being told that we're moving away from internal combustion engines into something else. They know this one niche, this one idea, this one sector. It's a very hard thing to expect these people to want to go ahead and help incentivize and help accelerate this change to something that will perhaps leave them behind, leave them jobless. You can empathize with the situation, but at the end of the day, no matter what, it's going to happen. So you can either sit there and be complacent and just be upset about what's to come, or you can see this as an opportunity and help refine your skills, craft out a new niche for yourself, new talents, and make it applicable to the new world. And the new world will be an all-electric world. This is not a if, it's a when. And, you guys all know my opinions. I think by 2025, we will see more electric vehicles sold than internal combustion engine vehicles. And at that point, right, if these other companies aren't there, according to Kathy Woods of ARK Invest, Tesla will have 25% of all vehicle market share in the world. And for those of you who think that's crazy, let's just take a step back here. Google alone, Google search, essentially owns all the search in the world. Facebook or Meta or whatever you want to call it now, essentially owns all of social media, right? Between Instagram, between Facebook or Meta, between WhatsApp, right? Facebook essentially owns everything at this point. When we look at, streaming services, there's like 2 or 3 really, right? There's Netflix, there's Hulu, and you can call it Disney Plus, right? Disney has a nice conglomerate underneath it. But the idea is there's always 2 to 3 winners, and that's pretty much it when tech tends to revolutionize any industry. Cell phone market, same thing. You have the iPhone, you have Google's Pixel, and then you have Samsung, all right? Yes, there are other little offshoots here and there, but the majority are those, okay? So the car industry seems to be going down a very similar path. Sources said the rift between workers and management has rekindled a long-standing conflict that has been led to a discussion about Diess's future at a pivotal moment in the history of the world's second largest car maker. This is the part where I really think that, this isn't the first time that Volkswagen has had issues with Diess. And the issues are the way he wants to move the company in order to speed things up, in order to catch up to Tesla. Or not even catch up, but at least stay on pace. Because remember, Tesla is years and years ahead of everybody else. Nobody else can make a profitable electric vehicle. Nobody else has the margins that Tesla has. Nobody else has autonomous vehicles like Tesla has. Nobody else has the supercharging network, right, which is the equivalent of gas stations. Nobody else has insurance. Tesla just has all these, these feelers going out everywhere. They're like an octopus with all these different business entities that they've been working on for, the last 15 years. And now every other company has to hurry up and accelerate to just keep up. And so all Diess is trying to do right here is focus on one segment, and it's just the automotive segment, right? It's like, forget about everything else that Tesla's doing. They're just trying to keep up with that. And to think that Tesla isn't continuing to innovate, they are. Okay, they make vehicles in 1/3 of the time that it takes Volkswagen. 1/3. So just think about that. They do more with less. They have more efficiency outputs with less people. They have bigger factories that can output more than what you see multiple factories combined from these other car manufacturers. So this is what Diess sees, and it's very obvious for him, and this is what he's trying to push forward. This has led to discussions about Diess's future because, other people like the status quo, and that just tends to be the way things are with these older, OEM, these incumbent companies and business models. People are reluctant to change. It's this motto of this is how it's always been. This is how we do things. And you know what? That's also how you go bankrupt. That's also how you become irrelevant. And that's just a fact. That has not changed in the course of history. Those who stop innovating, those who get laden with bureaucracy and red tape, they're the ones that become Me Too companies. They're the ones that fall behind and become third-tier respected companies, if not just go bankrupt. And we've already seen a lot of these companies go bankrupt. It's not the first time. So here we have a quote from Diess. I'm being frequently asked why I keep comparing us with Tesla. I know this is annoying to some, Diess told workers. Even if I no longer talk about Elon Musk, he'll still be there and revolutionizes our industry and keeps getting more competitive quickly. What Diess is saying here is that Tesla is innovating and moving faster while everybody keeps trying to catch up. Think about it. Tesla can now make their full body, the full structure of the vehicle, with 3 castings. Meanwhile, everybody else has to use hundreds of parts, all of these robots to weld everything. Why? Well, because Tesla created a special alloy that doesn't need to be heated or doesn't need to be cooled after it gets pressed. It's a special alloy. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody else can do it. So nobody else can, recreate what they're doing, right? And that's just one little example, right? The amount of efficiency they have from cooling lines to electrical circuit boards that they have within the vehicle is just unprecedented, okay? They are just miles ahead and they keep innovating. A favorite quote of mine from Elon Musk was during Autonomous Day back in, I think, 2019. He was asked, what are you doing from a patent perspective to make sure that nobody steals your ideas and your technology? And Elon did his classic, let me look in the sky, let me think about this, And, he said, well, I'm trying to think what I would do if I was trying to steal someone else's technology. And what he said was, by the time you're able to get, whatever the secret formula, whatever the method is for what you're trying to, recreate, once you get that, then you have to reverse engineer it, and then you have to figure out how to implement it. And by then, you're a year to 2 years into it, and then maybe you can create with something. And what Elon said was, in order to just not even care about that, the best way to prevent against stolen intellectual property is to just innovate faster, to innovate more, to have a more rapid process of innovation, to get rid of red tape. And, this is where he famously, said, the best process is no process. The best part is no part. And so innovating is the most important thing you can do. And that is the culture within Tesla. And that is not the culture with literally just about every other company in the world. And that's why Tesla will inevitably be the largest company in the world by a mile. It won't even be close. All right. I was just at dinner with my best friend, and I was telling him, people look at me crazy when I talk about Tesla will probably be worth anywhere from $15 trillion to $20 trillion by the end of this decade. And I know that looks crazy. That sounds so out of the world, but you know what? So did, a few months ago when I was saying that, Tesla will easily be at $1 trillion by the end of the year. And look where we are right now. So, sometimes when people say things that you think are crazy, maybe don't think they're crazy and just unpack it a little bit and see if there's some rationale to what they're saying. And I'll admit it, a lot of my rationale comes based on full self-driving and robo-taxis. If that doesn't come to fruition, well then, my opinion will be at $9 to $10 trillion company, which is still a $9,000 to $10,000 stock price, right? That's still a 10x from where we are now. So life's still good. So going back here to completing Diess's quote, only as a team can we make Volkswagen future-proof, Diess told the meeting. Also attended by Works Council boss Daniela Cavallo, remember that name, Lower Saxony State Premier Stefan Weil, and George Hoffman, the head of powerful trade union IG Metall. Okay, so again, essentially what we have here is bureaucracy, a council boss, the state premier of Lower Saxony, and a head of a union. All these people are here influencing what's happening with Volkswagen. For those of you who are so anti-Tesla because they won't unionize, this is why, right? This is the red tape. This is the BS that the likes of a Herbert Diess, who's trying to keep the company alive, is having to deal with. This shouldn't be something you have to deal with, okay? This is one of the reasons the employees of Tesla choose not to unionize. It's not because Elon Musk doesn't want them to unionize, but it's because they understand. They get stock options. They get better benefits. They get higher pay. Everything is better with Tesla than if they were in a union. And the truth is, I've said this many times, I've been in a union. I've been part of 2 unions. And I'm telling you right now, when I left the unions, I made more money. I was treated better. Everything was better. Okay? Unions were very important. They had their place in time. And they have succeeded in making sure that companies treat their employees correctly. But now we're in 2021. And unions are an archaic form of grouping people in order to create this friction between employees and the employer. Okay, we're in a different time. We're in a time where companies treat their employees very well, or at least they have the intentions to. Okay, and as long as you're doing your job and you're doing good stuff, right, you reap the benefits. Okay, we're talking about companies like Google and Facebook and Apple, right? And all these other companies where you get free lunches, you have bean bags, you have ping pong tables, you can drink in the office. Like, this is just a new paradigm. This isn't the 1930s anymore. But anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent here. But this right here is what Diess is having to deal with, right? All these other external people that really are not part of Volkswagen at all. The conflict highlights the limitations Diess faces in steering the behemoth that employs 675,000 staff in navigating a complex stakeholder structure where labor representatives and the state of Lower Saxony have a majority on the supervisory board. Sources familiar with the matter said on Wednesday a specially convened committee would discuss the future of Diess in an attempt to solve this dispute. Again, this is the second time this has happened where there's this friction between Diess and these regulatory bodies and these union leaders, right? It makes you wonder, like, at one point does Diess say, enough, I'm done with this BS, I'm out of here, okay? Keep in mind, Elon Musk, not too long ago, was trying to get Herbert Diess to come over and be the CEO of Tesla, right? I mean, we've heard this a million times. Elon Musk does not like being CEO. He hates being CEO. He doesn't like the job. Right, what he wants to do is be a product engineer, right? He wants to be a engineer, not a CEO, not a head person who's just making decisions left and right about mundane things that just aren't of interest to him. He likes the electrical engineering. He likes the physics of things, right? That's what that's what gets his blood going. That's what keeps his mind moving, and so that's what he prefers to do. And so he tried to recruit Herbert Diess, but Diess, politely refused and said, no, I'm my goal is to stay with Volkswagen and stay with this, legendary German automaker. Works Council boss Cavallo, which remember from before, criticized Diess for his communication style in recent weeks, which she said fueled concerns that transformation he was proposing will result in tens of thousands of job cuts. If you do not make these changes as fast as possible, your 675,000 workforce will go to zero. This is inevitable. It's not even a question, at this point, for people who follow the space, if you really don't see it, you should probably be looking for a new career. All right. These automotive analysts who just cannot see this, it's plain as day what's happening. It's never been clearer. Tesla has almost a year of backlog. Okay. If you want to buy a Tesla, you essentially have to wait a year now. And guess what? People are willing to wait. People are not choosing to go elsewhere. Not just that, but at this point, if you say, oh, I'm going to get an electric vehicle, I don't know anybody who does not immediately think, oh, you're getting a Tesla. Okay, so this is the point. If you do not start innovating, if you do not start moving quickly, your future has been spoken for. Okay, you will be the next blockbuster. Forget about tens of thousands of job cuts. You're going to have hundreds of thousands of job cuts. Cavallo goes on to say, we're tired of hearing time and again that the Works Council is apparently only concerned with preserving the status quo, she said, adding workers and labor representatives were all backing the needed overhaul. Diess in a supervisory board meeting in September warned that as many as 30,000 jobs could be lost if Volkswagen was not fast enough in transforming itself, sources have said. He has said Tesla is much more efficient, which is with its much smaller workforce. Musk, who is currently awaiting the opening of Tesla's first European gigafactory in Grünheide near Berlin, even dialed into a meeting of top-level Volkswagen executives last month and talked to them for over an hour, Diess said last week. The fascination that you apparently feel for Mr. Musk and the effort you're making in staying in contact with him, we would welcome if that was the same for the huge challenges the company currently faces, Cavallo said. This is just beyond being blind to what's happening. Herbert Diess putting down his ego, humbling himself, reaching out to Elon Musk, every single automaker's biggest competitor right now, and asking Elon to come to a private managers meeting of 200 managers, top managers at Volkswagen, and asking him to speak about, what Tesla does to move the needle with innovation, how they're able to be more efficient, what their processes are like. And Elon Musk choosing to say, yes, I'll come and do that, says a few things. One, it shows Herbert Diess is a very humble man and is very serious about what he's doing, because that was not an easy thing to do, to ask arguably the biggest rival to come in and speak. All right, that's not an easy task to do. Two, it says a lot about Elon Musk. Okay, there's this narrative out there, oh, all these billionaires, all they care about is, holding all this wealth and not sharing it with other people. This is a man who lives in a $50,000 house outside of SpaceX in Texas. Okay, he doesn't own all of these lavish houses and everything that people think he does as a billionaire, as the richest man in the world by over $100 billion. Okay, this is a man what he cares about is accelerating the advent of sustainable energy, and he cares about getting us over into a state of being a multiplanetary species, right? Getting over to Mars and be able to establish a colony there, right? And why is that important to him? Because it preserves the human consciousness. If something happens to Earth, we're done. There's no more humans. There's no more consciousness. At least if we have a base in Mars, we have to stand a chance of preserving human consciousness. At the same time, why is accelerating the advent to renewable energy so important? Well, because to quote Elon, we're playing this stupid, dangerous science experiment game with carbon in the atmosphere and saying, what's going to happen? We should be fine for the next 100 years, but who knows? Why would we gamble with that? Why would we play that game? We don't have to. We have the technology, we have the resources to get away from fossil fuels, all right? There are certain things that we'll always need fossil fuels for, right? But for the majority of the carbon that was put into the atmosphere, we can get rid of it, and there's no reason we shouldn't. And this just proves, Elon going on to help Volkswagen to speak at this meeting just shows, right, the conviction that he has for this. It's not a dollar game for him, right? It's not just about making money. It's about getting everybody on board into this revolution of getting to electric vehicles. Now, this meeting did also remind me, right? Elon Musk with Herbert Diess at Volkswagen was very reminiscent to me of when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, right? Apple was on the brink of bankruptcy. They brought Steve Jobs in. He had 3 months to try to save the company. They were running out of money. Everything was just awful. And for the majority of that meeting, Steve Jobs talked about how they're going to get rid of all their products and they're going to simplify down to 1 to 2 products, and that's what they were going to sell. And then on the big screen behind them, all of a sudden, videoing in was Bill Gates, Microsoft. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, for those of you who don't know your history, were huge rivals. Okay, Steve Jobs, for one, arguably had the biggest ego out of anybody in the history of tech. And he was able to humble himself enough to bring Bill Gates on. Bill Gates invested into Apple, right? This is their biggest competitor. Microsoft, Bill Gates invested into Apple to keep Apple alive and to give them a second chance at life. That's what this reminded me of when Herbert Diess invited Elon Musk. Okay, in this case, Elon Musk was acting to Bill Gates coming on. Steve Jobs dropped his ego, showed his humility just as Diess did to invite him in. And again, the whole idea here was to inspire innovation and change and to say, we still need you, okay? But that's what Microsoft said to Apple. This, shouldn't be a one-player game, right? We all stand to benefit from having all of you playing in the game. And that's what Elon feels, right? Elon just wants to get other companies to go ahead and start this change. Very interesting what's happening here. It's wild to me that there's this friction between Volkswagen, these union groups, these worker labor groups, and Herbert Diess. Without Herbert Diess, I really believe that Volkswagen will be done. All right, I for a long time, I thought Volkswagen would be one of the only companies left standing. I could see either one of Ford or GM survive. I don't think both will. Actually, I can almost guarantee they both won't. Volkswagen, I thought they would be able to stand the test of time. But without Herbert Diess, without Volkswagen getting out of their own way, I think it's inevitable. Okay, the electric vehicles they have now are very unpopular. Okay, the ID3, the ID4, now the ID5 coming out. I mean, you've all seen the Sandy Munro reviews. Like, they're awful. They're not good. Okay, they're just not that great. And that's just the vehicle part. Okay, it's going to come to a point where you can't just have an electric vehicle. It's going to be more than that. Right? Does it have full self-driving? Okay, can it drive itself? Like, that's such a small thing that people don't realize that's going to be arguably the most transformational thing we've ever seen. Robotaxis, full self-driving, will be the largest industry in the world. All right, just imagine this. Imagine everybody with a vehicle paying a $200 a month subscription for this. All right, this would just be unparalleled. Okay, this is gonna be bigger than AWS, than Azure, bigger than any of those. And that's going to be one part of Tesla. This is what Herbert Diess is battling against. And this is why it is so important that people stay out of the way of these innovators. And if they decide that they're going to let go of Herbert Diess or that they're going to part ways, I would be very, very, it'd be very hard to believe that Herbert Diess does not end up at Tesla. Okay, I mean, now that they have a factory there in Grünheide, just outside Berlin, That's going to be coming online, brand new factory. It'd be very difficult to believe that Herbert Diess does not come over to Tesla if this continues, if this type of reaction to what he wants and his transformation continues. All right, we're going to leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A lot of drama going on here, but at the end of the day, this could end up benefiting Tesla. So we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. But before we go, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Ring that bell. I love you all. Thanks again. Peace.